In this week's episode, we have so much knitting to cover. First, I'm going to share about my Birds of a Feather shawl, the one that I was working on for the knit along, but did I finish in time? We'll have to find out. I also want to share with you the progress on my test knit for Caitlin Hunter, the Alpine Bloom Tee. I think you guys are going to love knitting this pattern, as well as 2 new cast-ons and a long-coming update on my Ferda Genser Sweater. We have so much to cover. Grab your knitting, get cozy, let's jump right in. Welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you are returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. Let's jump right in. All right, let's talk finished objects. This is my Birds of a Feather shawl. This pattern is by Andrea Mowry, also known as Drea Renee Knits. She has a YouTube channel as well. I finished this as part of her March to May knit along, and I really loved this shawl. It is big, and to be fair, it's not blocked. I haven't blocked it yet. I plan on stretching the you-know-what out of it because it really does end up being such a cozy, nice shawl once it's fully blocked. I just haven't done it yet. But it is beautiful. It is a lot of garter. You have this beautiful chevron pattern, and then you have I believe it's called feather and fan, kind of lace motif, few stripes. It's really beautiful. It's super fun to knit. I really enjoyed it. I really can't say enough about this pattern. It's the second time I've knit it. I'll actually share the picture. Let's do it here. And I really enjoyed this. I probably did it a little more quickly this time, but probably not by much because it is still a lot of knitting. I will tell you that the last time I knit this pattern, I nearly ran out of yarn. Let me show you what I mean. So this was what I had left of the fingering weight, part of the shawl, and then you also have a mohair. So with the fingering weight, I really thought I was going to run out. And in fact, I think with the first one and with this one, I actually, at the very end, did an extra little bit of mohair because it seemed like I had a little bit more of that because I knew I was going to have to bind off with the fingering weight yarn. So I did that on this one, and I probably did it on the first one, I'm guessing. But the first one I had no mohair left, none at all. This time I had a little bit left. This is also more yardage. My first one is all a Hue Loco shawl. I used her Spun XL base in the colorway On Holiday and the mohair in Poppy. I absolutely love how this turned out. I really think that that Poppy color is one of my favorite mohair colors that I have used. It's such a happy, bright color, and I think it can probably be very flattering on most people. So from the second one, I used Magpie Fibers feather base in the color Soiree or Soiree, one of those two. And I really enjoyed this color. It's kind of a fuchsia with a little bit of purple here and there. It definitely has a little bit of variegation, maybe just slight, but it's really beautiful. And I do really like how it matched with this one. I think originally I thought that this color, which is a Hue Loco color, it is the colorway Sizzle. But I really like how these went together in the end. Originally in my head, I had thought that the Sizzle was a little bit more on the red side rather than the purple side, I think, or on the kind of pinkish side. It worked out, but I think I kind of was questioning whether or not I should use it. In fact, I had played with the idea of replacing the feather mohair with a blue because I thought maybe it would be just more stunning and bold with that, but now I'm kind of glad that I kept it the way I kept it. So that is the feather and fan shawl. I'll also put a picture so you can see kind of the whole thing since it's very hard to tell here. But I love it. It's cozy. It's sort of like you almost forget that you're wearing it because it is so light. And it really is such a wonderful, it would be a wonderful travel shawl because it is like just enough warmth. It's kind of like wearing a little hug. It really, really is such a lovely shawl to wear. And in fact, part of the reason that I reknit it, not because, I mean, I loved the pattern, but I also just wanted it since I knit the other one. My friend was like, oh, I think you knit this for me. I just really love it. And so she's very knit worthy and I gave it to her. But then I was kind of sad because I didn't have one. So I made one for myself and I chose these colors and I'm just happy how it turned out. It will be even more fabulous once it's blocked. The lace will be a little bit more stunning and show a little bit better, but I really, really love how this shawl turned out. It was part of her March to May knit along, as I said, and I so enjoy following along with that knit along. Particularly, it's a very chatty knit along. There's like little chatter sections and it's just so fun to like jump in and see what other people are creating and making and just like ooh and ah together because you're all on the same journey together with the knit along. So I really enjoy that, which I think I'll show you real quickly. This was what I had left. So this was what I had left of the sizzle. So I had a little bit left, but not too much. And then again, the feather. So I had just a little bit left. This also, again, had more yardage than the original one that I had used. This is the same. So I got a little bit, maybe my gauge was slightly different, or I did it a little bit differently because I do obviously have a little bit more left. So I think it's kind of interesting to see how your gauge can clearly change, and I guess that's why it's important to swatch, although I don't always follow that example. So that's my birds of a feather. I am in love with it. The mohair is just dreamy. I think I actually got the mohair from a store that was selling their Magpie stock. I think they were a stockist and then they weren't. And so they were selling just the couple of skeins they had left. And so I think I got it on sale. So that makes it extra sweet, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I love it. They still have, Magpie still has this color, soiree, but Hue Loco does not have sizzle, but they have some really fun colors right now, so I would definitely check out her website. The Hue Loco Spun XL yarn is so special. It's an 80-10-10. It really feels good in your hands when you're working with it. So 80% merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It's just a really beautiful soft yarn and I really, really couldn't speak more highly of it. The mohair is 70% mohair, 30% silk, and again, that's from Magpie fiber. So that's all about my birds of a feather shawl. I could not be more happy with how it turned out. I feel like, I don't know, like I'm wrapped in like a juicy, juicy shawl. I love it so much. Knit yourself one, you will not regret it. So the birds of a feather shawl was my main focus until May 31st. However, I was also tandemly working on a test knit for Caitlin Hunter. It is the Alpine Bloom Tee. It is a color work pattern that will be released this summer, and mine is made out of 100% organic cotton. I'm using Isair Hur Organic. And I really, really like this, especially once this is blocked. This will be like heaven in a shirt. It is going to be so drapey and soft, and I really like it. So this is the yoke. I just finished it and split for sleeves and then set this aside, not because I'm not having fun, but I felt like I would reward myself for my good behavior in finishing my yoke so quickly. So I cast something else on, but I'm very eager to finish this as well because I do want to wear it this summer. Again, the drape is just going to be like insane. It's going to be so good, but I'm very excited to wear this when I can. It is in the colorways. The black is the colorway Ink and the brown is camel, aptly named camel. And yeah, that's all I have to say for that for now. I really enjoyed knitting this. I am going to probably do a little video on just how I cut my floats on this. Not necessarily a tutorial, but more of like, this is how I like to do things, because I did not necessarily consistently catch floats, because in some spaces there are some longer floats, in other spaces there's maybe a long float for one row, and I just kind of played with, for myself, how this would be better or different, so that when I was done, because I'm definitely going to knit another one, how I'm gonna wanna do that. I also think that catching floats is really different depending upon the yarn that you're using. So if you're using a linen yarn, it's going to be more slippy. Or if you were doing color work with mohair or a silk base or different things, you're going to experience different things in color work, right? So with silk, it's very, very slippy, and I'm imagining also silk would be the same. So if you had like 100% silk, especially, not necessarily the more rustic silk, but I'm sure there would be kind of a slip factor to it. So I played around with some different tactics in catching floats. One of them was to do ladder back jacquard, and you can kind of see where there's like a knit stitch, kind of a row of knits, or a column of knit stitches, if you will. And that is where I did the like ladder back part of the color work. Which is not in the pattern, this is just something I was playing with, but I felt like it helped with the long floats because I had linen. And the reason I say that is because with 100% linen, again, it's so slick, but if this were wool or a wool blend, it would have a little bit more like grab to it. And so I would worry less about the color showing through so much or anything like that. Where this one was such a high contrast that I was a little concerned about catching a float and having it really show through. Although I did play with it a little bit and left a couple just to like see once it's blocked if that's gonna matter or not, because maybe I did all of this work and it really makes no difference at all. And when it's blocked, it won't matter. So it was just my own little experiment with this one, catching floats in different ways to just see if one was better than another, and you know what that meant. And as I kind of figure that out and finish the sweater and block it, I'm definitely going to share that with you, because I do think that's interesting, valuable information that you may or may not want to know. I will share that with this sweater, I toyed around with doing something different than I did with my previous sweater. So when I started the ladder back jacquard on this one, let me find, so right here is a ladder back jacquard space right there. And typically in ladder back jacquard, you are going to anchor it into a stitch of the other color. You basically, when you're making the jacquard stitch, you grab a stitch below and you do a knit into it and kind of hold it behind, just like a double knit. If this is confusing, I'm gonna make this quick as possible so we can move on to something else. But instead of doing that this time, I decided to test out something I've been thinking about, and I'm not saying I invented this by any means. It's probably a technique somewhere, but it was just something on my mind that I thought, well, you could use this maybe instead. So instead of anchoring it with that first row, what I did instead was I did like a yarn over on my needle, and then on the second row, when I came back to that space, I held my working yarn, so in this case the black, I held it in front, and then I did a knit stitch into that yarn over in camel, and then held that to the back, and then pulled my black to the back and continued to knit. And so I did that each time. So it started creating that ladder back effect without anchoring it, to the top of my knitting. And I am sure I did not invent this by any means. This just was in my head of like a way, because I was feeling at the time, and I think it would have worked itself out, but I was feeling at the time that it was going to really show through if I was anchoring it. So I thought I would just try something different. It seemed to be fine. I don't see it really doing much of anything. And it'll be interesting to see how that all kind of turns out once it's blocked, to see if my like little hack of grabbing that stitch worked. And again, it's not my invention by any means. I'm sure someone else has done it. It's just in my head how I was like, I'm gonna approach this in a different way. So that's what I did with that. Again, this will be out this summer, and I'll share more as I kind of progress on that. The Alpine Bloom Tee by Caitlin Hunter. Okay, so those are the two works in progress that you guys have seen, but I cast on more things. Are you ready? So on June 1st, Purl Soho, purlsoho.com, had a knit along. They're hosting a knit along, and I will put on the screen how long it runs because I did not look that up beforehand. But they are making this dumpling bag in the knit along, and it's very, very cute. It is a bag that has a long handle and then a short handle, so you can loop this the long handle through and kind of hold it. It's very cute. I imagine I kind of want to use it as like a sock knitting project bag. I don't imagine it being too big, but I just think it would be a fun thing to have, and who knows? Who knows how I'll use it? Maybe I want to use it for different things, but so I cast on. This is a free pattern, so I'm going to kind of share with you a little bit of the details, but you do a provisional cast on in a different color of yarn. And this one is very, very easy to do. So if you are not familiar with a provisional cast on, they have a video which is super helpful. And basically what you do is you take your knitting needle, and you also need a crochet hook, and you basically crochet around your knitting needle, and then you just knit into those stitches. And it's a super easy way to approach a provisional cast on. I really, really, really like using this. But once you are done, you knit a ways for the bag, and then you do the handles, and then you come back and you Kitchener the bottom of the bag. Don't worry, it's not scary. It's actually very easy and very rhythmic once you get going. And of course, Purl Soho has tons and tons, well, they have tons of tutorials, but for this, they have a great tutorial that tells you exactly what you're doing and how to do it, and it takes you step by step. It's great, so you can make your own. I'm losing their yarn. I'm losing it. Oh, I'm losing stitches. I am using Purl Soho's not linen quill. I'm using Purl Soho's Blackbird quill in the color Raven. And it's black, so it's probably not going to be too exciting to look at. But it does have a little bit of a shine to it. It's very, like, this bag is going to be very well structured. The yarn, there's no chance you can break it. You need to cut it. So it's very sturdy yarn. And I think it's going to be really nice to just throw something in it, a little project, or I guess you could use it as a little purse. I think it's so cute. And I haven't made a ton of items that are just items and not necessarily clothing of some kind. So this is just kind of a fun little project. I imagine it's not going to take very long to knit, and I'm really excited to have this cute little dumpling bag. Again, the pattern is by Jenny Lee. It's a free pattern on Purl Soho. I'm using their Blackbird linen. I believe that if you go on their website and you sign up for the knit along, they will email you a code for a discount on the Blackbird linen, and for as long as probably the knit along's going on. But it's really, really good, like, quality yarn. I'm really curious to see if It bleeds a lot when I go to block it, but it won't matter because I'm only using black. I'm not gonna add anything to it. But yeah, it's a really, really cute, it's gonna be a really fun bag. And I can't wait for it to be done. I've only knit on it a couple of days. I'm making pretty good progress. So there you go. And I'm using 16-inch Xiaogu size 5 needles for this, which is what the pattern recommends. And it also is a pattern that uses pretty much all of the yarn in one go. So you kind of do, I think, want to make sure that your gauge is close. So at least measure it once you get going. Anyway, I really like this pattern. If you're participating in the Purl Soho knit along, let me know. I really am curious, and let me know what color of yarn that you are using. Okay, so I have one more new cast on. I, again, got a little bit of FOMO when Tracy of the Grocery Girls cast on her Ranunculus. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do one more. I've already knit 2 this year, but I'm gonna do one more because I've always wanted a black one, and I want, I think, to make this one short sleeve. So I'm gonna try on what I have so far. I put it on longer needles so that we could do this, and hopefully nothing bad happens while I'm sharing it. It's always kind of weird when you're trying to try it on and you have like circular needles that are kind of collapsing, but we'll try. So this is what it's looking like so far. I'm using Illimani Sabri yarn, and this is just the regular Sabri. I believe they have a 2, which is thicker, but this is their fingering weight. It is a 85% organic cotton, 15% baby alpaca blend. It is so soft. It is probably one of the softest cotton yarns that I have used. I also think this would be wonderful for kids' clothes or a baby knit. It is really, really nice. Probably not black, but they have some really pretty grays and beiges and lighter colors. I'm gonna post a picture of their color selection here because I think it's amazing. It's also, I would say, not too expensive. I believe this skein was slightly under 17 US dollars. And that's for a 100-gram skein with 400 yards. So I'm really excited for this sweater. I do think what I'm going to do is have, like I said, short sleeves, but I am toying with the idea of either doing an elbow length, a completely short, or a flutter sleeve. I saw someone had done flutter sleeves, and in my head I thought, okay, this is how I'm gonna knit it. And I looked up what they did, and they did it how I was thinking, so we're on the same page. I kind of have an idea of how I want to make the flutter sleeve happen, and I'm glad that someone else has done it, and I like the way it looks, so I'm really excited. I have finished all of the yoke part. I'm now on the raglan increases, and then you split for sleeves. So I'm getting pretty close. I have a little bit of work left before I've split for sleeves, but I'm really liking how this is looking. I did the wider neckline on this one. I've actually done the wider neckline on all of mine. I kind of prefer it. I like having a wider neck, mostly because I will also kind of pull it up and then make it wider, and I kind of just like how that sits. I get wanting it up closer to your neck, but that's just, I like to have it off of the shoulder or many different ways. So I'm really excited to have this. I do think this will be worn a ton because once it's not summer, I can layer it under stuff. I just think it'll be really nice. So I'm really looking forward to having this in my wardrobe. I'm enjoying knitting it. I thought about adding beads like I did with my golden one, but then I thought, you know, I just want to actually keep this simple and just do the flutter sleeve if I'm going to do like an embellishment or something like super different than I've done in the past. And I think that will be really nice. I think it'll be possibly a nice thing to wear for the Flock Fiber Festival that is in August in Seattle. I think that might be a good thing to grab because it is going to be so light. It's mostly cotton, so it's super breathable with the gauge. I mean, it's very, you can't tell when you're wearing it, but it's certainly pretty loose knit, and I'm very excited for this. I kind of can't wait. So that's what I cast on and I've been working on. So that's cast on number 2. And again, like, I cannot recommend this yarn enough. I think this, so I actually had spoken about it earlier in an earlier episode about making a little sister's romper for my friend's baby. It's a pattern by Petite Knit. And I had been sad that I couldn't find this Katia yarn that was cotton cashmere. I did actually find that on their website they had it, although it seems like it's not really in stores anymore. But it's a 90% cotton, 10% cashmere yarn. And I have always liked to use it for baby things because it is soft. But this would be a great replacement, I think. This would be great. It would work out really well. I like how they have some really neutral colors, which I think are always a good option for baby clothes because then they can be worn for a long time and you're not gonna have to compete with wild colors going out of style. So, but anyway, for the Ranunculus sweater, a pattern by Midori Hirose, I love this yarn. I can't wait to wear it. I think it's gonna be really, really nice and just a good summer, a good all over, all the time sweater. So I've been kind of cruising on this, although I probably will try and finish my test knit as soon as I finish the yoke and split fur sleeves on that sweater. I'll probably hop back over to the test knit and finish that out and then come back to it. So I feel like I like to have things in different places of knitting so that I can grab kind of whatever I'm craving, whether it be I want some stockinette in the round for a while and just do that, or I want something a little bit more complicated, etc. So that's kind of what I have been doing. For the next sweater, this one has been the bane of my existence, but we've come up like there, I see a way through. So I had texted my friend Simone. I really wasn't trying to be dramatic, but now that I think back at it, I'm like, maybe I was being maybe it was dramatic sounding, but I really wasn't meaning it in that way. I just had, so I text her, I think I'm gonna rip this sweater out. I don't know if I need to go back up to the yoke and start over, or if I need to only go to where I split sleeves and add stitches, because I just wasn't liking how it was fitting. And I really just was not happy with this at all. But then, because Simone is way smarter than me, she was like, is that superwash yarn? I was like, yeah, of course it is. She's like, well, how about you just wait before, if you're gonna rip it out, like you can at least do one more thing. And I was like, okay. She's like, why don't you block it? Just put it on barber cords and block it really quick and see if that changes the fit in any way that you're comfortable with, and then you can make a decision. So I listened to her because she's smart, and that's what we do with our smart friends. We listen to them. And now the fit is fine. Like before, this was very tight on me, and then this was very blousy. So there was just, I was thinking I was going to have to come back and either take out a repeat and make it all kind of just more fitted, or I was going to have to come back to where I split for sleeves and add stitches to make the body bigger. But I don't think I have to do either thing. I think it will be fine. it definitely, I stretched it out when I was blocking it wider, so it did make it shorter. So I probably will do maybe one more motif and then the ribbing. And now I just have to finish the sleeves. And I feel confident in moving forward. Part of the reason this sweater was just not getting finished was because I was so unhappy with how it was looking and frustrated with the time I spent making it. And I'm sure you have felt that way, where it's sort of like I had finally come to terms with, I'm just gonna have to rip it out because I at least want to be happy with my thing that I'm spending so much time knitting. So if that means ripping it out, great. And I would have done that, and probably, I don't know if I would have like started working on it again, to be honest, because I was getting very frustrated. And also, I think this is a super fun sweater to wear, but I also wasn't sure if I was going to want to continue on, because it is a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's out of my comfort zone color-wise. I do promise I wear more color than black, since that's all I've seen shown today. But I really was just not sure and starting to feel frustrated with myself not having figured out a better solution, and just kept going because I was like, oh, this is not looking right, but I'm just gonna keep going. And just continuing with that mindset wasn't really working well, because then I didn't want to pick it up. So now I have to reread the pattern and figure out what I wrote for decreases in the sleeves, because the pattern is by Anna and Heidi Pickles. It is the Ferda Genser. They have a kit that's not this. This is actually my Advent kit from 2021 from Sweet Nesting. And they have like a kit you could buy to make this in 4 colors. And the pattern itself, while it does give instruction on how to make a sweater, it is very vague. So I would never recommend this for a beginner. And I would say having a good knowledge of just sweater construction would probably be better than picking this to begin with. But again, it is possible. It's just one of those things where I think you need to have patience. You need to be able to read between the lines and just kind of make assumptions and figure out a little bit of your own plan. So with the sleeve decreases, the instruction is an odd one that it's not something I've encountered in the way that it described the decreases. I would say, generally speaking, decreases I have seen are every 3 centimeters decrease by this many stitches, maybe a basic one. I've also seen every 7 rows decrease this many stitches, and this is how you're going to do it. The way the pattern is written gives you a percentage, or every 0.78 inches do this. So they translated it, but even when you look at their instructions in Norwegian, it's just not clear on exactly how you're doing it. So I had to just figure out how I was going to do the decreases to get the diameter and length and everything that I wanted. So it was just a little bit more effort is what I mean. When you're looking at this pattern, it's not impossible. It just can be a little bit much. So enough of that. But this is my Ferda Genser. I will be picking it up here and there. Again, I don't feel as rushed to finish it because I have all these summer tops that I am really excited to wear. And so I think this will just be if I want something a little bit more to knit on, then I'm gonna grab this. Otherwise, I do at least feel like I don't have to rip it out. So I can move forward on it, and that feeling feels really good. So that is my Ferda Genser. It's a pattern by Anna and Heidi Pickles. Has very pretty floats and about 10 million ends to weave in once I'm done. So there's also that. Maybe I should be weaving in ends in between projects. Maybe that would make more sense for right now. The only other upcoming cast on, which I actually haven't cast on yet, but I wanted to show the yarn to you, was this King Fiber yarn. It is her High Twist BFL yarn, and it's in the colorway Narwhal, and this is going to be socks for my husband. And I'm thinking, because his birthday and Father's Day and all that is in June, that I'm going to try to knock these out, but we'll see. I've done it in the past. Every year he gets socks around this time, but I also don't know if I've ever had this many projects on my needles, so we will see. I think the bag will be fast. I have a deadline for the test knit, so that will be relatively fast. And then everything else can be set aside until I get these done too. So that's the other thing. But this yarn is so beautiful. I have made socks for him in other yarns, but if it's not BFL, they don't last. If I use a BFL blend, they will last, but if it's anything else, they fall apart. It does not work. Does not work. He's hard on his socks, but the BFL seems to be magic and stay intact. And in fact, I haven't had to repair any of them, knock on wood, but I'm really excited to cast these on because I really love this color. It's like kind of a slimy green with lavender. And it actually kind of inspires me to want to make a sweater, like a striped sweater with like a slimy green and a lavender yarn stripes. I think that would be really pretty. So it's got me thinking, because all I need is one more cast on, and we all know that's not true. Okay, so as far as knitting and yarn, that's it. If you enjoy this episode and you don't want to hear about my life, that's okay. Put an emoji that is your favorite below this video so I know that you made it at least this far. All right, so I wanted to share with you some of the things I'm watching, listening to, life things. First of all, I have been watching Saint X, which I shared with you last episode. I finished it. They published the last episode of the series. I think it's done. It didn't seem like there was a reason to continue on with it. It was so good. I liked it so much. I cannot recommend it enough. It's on Hulu, and it is about a woman who runs into her sister's alleged murder, and that kind of triggers things for her where she wants to find out how her sister died exactly and who is responsible and all these things. So it was so good. It was so well written. I feel like it certainly is mostly based on characters, and it definitely tests, like, the way in which it's filmed definitely kind of gives the viewer a different bias, which kind of then makes you think about like how you're thinking about things or how they presented it. And it's really a very, very good story. I really, really enjoyed it. It was so well done. I felt like the acting was great. It was phenomenal. Highly, highly recommend. I had a bunch of things happen in the last 2 weeks since I last filmed. My son finished his last day of preschool, so that was pretty exciting. His grandparents visited my in-laws for a week, and that was exciting. And then we went to the beach, a little day trip to the Oregon coast, and then I went to go visit my grandmother in Tacoma, Washington, which is outside of Seattle, for the day, and stopped at a yarn shop, which I'm going to show you a little bit about. But it has been wildly, like, non-stop busy. I'm very much looking forward to hopefully the next couple of weeks being knitting only and just calm hangouts in the backyard and whatnot, playing outside. So it's been wildly busy, but I really, really, really want to show you a couple of pictures of this yarn shop in Tacoma. I'm sorry, it's actually located in Chehalis, Washington. It's called You and I. It was really, really cute. They are like a multi-purpose space. So almost all of this space is used for the yarn store, but within the same building, and I believe there's a couple that runs it. I think the wife owns and operates the yarn portion, and I think her husband owns and operates the creamery there. You can also buy yarn that is made using the wool from the sheep that also make the cheese. So it's a very cool place. Beyond just that, they had tons and tons of spinning fiber, weaving supplies, so much yarn. I don't know if I have been to a store that has more yarn. This one was insanely stocked. They had everything from hand-dyed to commercial to specialty yarns, just absolutely anything your heart could desire, you would find there. I really want to say, like, there's no chance that there isn't project yarn in that store for you. It is so jam-packed. The very cool thing about it is that it is located right off of I-5. So if you are in Portland or in Seattle and you make that drive ever, it is not far off of the freeway. So you can kind of jump off. You're at the yarn shop in 2 minutes and then jump right back on. So you're not really like going way out of your way when you're driving between the two places. So that was super nice. It was a great break. The coffee is amazing. I had a really lovely lavender oat milk latte, and they also have food there. It's amazing. You can buy the cheese, all the things. They make the cheese in that facility, I believe, in the back rooms, but it is really quite, like, I would call it a yarn destination. It really was amazing, and I could not recommend it more. And yeah, so go to You and I Yarns, and I will link everything related to them below. But it really, really was a cool place, and it was like a pleasant surprise because I didn't really expect anything on my drive. I just thought, you know what, if there's a yarn store between my house and my grandma's house, I'm gonna stop and see how it is. And it was perfect. It was so good. They're very friendly. I loved it. Could not recommend enough. Get a lavender latte while you're there. Okay, the other thing coming up is it will be my husband's and my son's birthday. I don't think this will affect the filming schedule of these, but you will get to see lots of balloons. My son is going to have 2 shades of green, I believe, and we're gonna make some crazy big balloon thing. And he's super excited for his birthday and birthday party. So that's kind of what we're doing there. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. This tells YouTube that fiber enthusiasts love this kind of video. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I make these videos every 2 weeks. I enjoyed our time together. I can't wait to knit with you again, bestie, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna leave a couple of photos of our beautiful beach day trip, and I hope you enjoy. Bye.
My appetite, don't leave me here.